Gopinath, 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 Gopinath. So I just discovered something that I didn't realize, that this song, Gopinath, has 4 parts. And they're very similar, but I think we can dig into it more deeply, because there's a lot of things which are confusing for devotees, which is the moods of pure devotees, which seem very desperate, seem kind of sometimes can be looked at as depressing. It's not depressing. It's ecstatic, but it can be seen as depressing. So that needs to be clarified a little more. We've talked about that before, but I think it needs more discussion. And then you see the mood of begging. What does that mean to beg? And why would one beg? And even someone like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is so qualified, why would he be begging? So we need to understand that, because really, foundationally, Krishna consciousness is a process of begging and crying. It's kind of the basis, because we're not really qualified. So that's how we do it. So these 2 moods kind of predominate this song, and so I think we'll be able to get more clarity on these 2 moods and the other moods that we will discuss that come up in the song, and specifically how to apply those moods in our life and to embody them. That you might say, well, how can you embody a mood that you don't have? But through the process of transcendental osmosis, we can embody the mood of the great acaryas. Yeah, we can actually do that. And, there's so many great devotees whose footsteps we can follow in. And there are so many great people who are not devotees. And they may have their own qualifications materially, and sometimes it sets a good example, and people like to follow those examples of successful people. And of course, you can learn from anyone, but specifically, what is most rare is to learn what is the heart of pure devotional service, and that we learn best from the devotees, because you could say Bhaktivinoda Thakur is revealing his heart in his songs. And so we can read those songs and think, oh, okay, this is how I should be feeling. This is how hopefully I will feel in the future. And now can I get some trace of this feeling within my own bhakti? Because if I can, it's going to be extremely beneficial. So that's what's going on today, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, we never know where these classes will go, because interesting questions come up, and sometimes something that we read sparks a conversation that goes off in who knows where, but usually it goes off in a direction for which I feel that we need some clarity. So I take it as a cue from Krishna that we need to discuss this. So that's what we'll do. But first, we will go to Vrindavan. Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. I just want to go into this song a little bit because I sing it before class. We sing it before Bhagavatam class. I just want to go into this song a little bit because in one place it's described that Yashoda's love is similar to the love of Radharani. It's so elevated. And generally we say that Madhurya Ras is higher than Vatsalya Ras, but Yashoda's position, of course, is unique, and her love is unique. And so Jashodanandan means the pleasure that Yashoda is feeling, and we cannot fathom that pleasure, but we can sing about it. We can say Jashodanandana. Brajajana Ranjana. And the delight that the residents of Vrindavan get from interacting with Krishna, we also can't fathom, but we can sing about it. And when we sing about it, we kind of, it's like standing on the shore of the ocean and you just think, I can't fathom the depth, the length, the breadth of the ocean. It's just vast and amazing and awesome. In the real sense of the word awesome. And so you just stand on the shore and just say, oh my Govinda, this is amazing. Or you see a beautiful sunset or a beautiful mountain or anything which is overwhelmingly beautiful or vast. So it's like that. So you appreciate it because you can't appreciate the depth of it or the vastness of it. And that's what makes it so amazing. So it's like that when we're singing. Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. And there was something that I read today that was so funny about this Giri Bharadari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Ballabha, Giri Bharadari. Well, Prabhupada said, Gopi Jana, we're all meant to become gopis. I don't know if he meant that literally or meant that we are meant to love Krishna like the gopis, because you may have a different rasa, but You can take it as you like, but he said it. He said that we all are meant to become Gopijana. And then he said, Giri Bharadhari, he said, with one finger, pinky finger of his left hand, he completely chastised and defeated Indra. So, you ever think, okay, you have a problem with somebody and you have to deal with this problem, and it becomes like a huge issue and you don't know how to deal with it. You're talking to people, how do we deal with it? And then you may never be able to solve it. And Krishna, with his pinky, he solved that problem. So I thought that was funny. This is how Krishna does things, big problems in the world. He'll just go, poof, lift them out with his pinky. Okay, let's solve that problem. Next problem. So, Giri Bharadhari, lifting Govardhana. Some things we can meditate on when we're chanting, because Prabhupada said this song is a description of Vrindavan, so it is it's a dhyan, it's a Vrindavan dhyan, it's a Vrindavan meditation. So when we chant Jai Radha Madhava, then if you go along with the song, Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, that's Radha and Krishna in the kunjas of bushes doing their leelas, which they do every night, and Rasa Leela also. So you can meditate on that. What you're feeling, what you're thinking will be age appropriate, according to your age in Krishna consciousness. But certainly we can meditate on it with great veneration and respect and wonder. And then Yashodanandana Brajajana, Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari means the forest along the bank of the Jamuna. Krishna walks and plays and has fun, both with the cowherd boys and with the gopis. So that's something we can also meditate on when we're singing this song. So I just wanted to start with that. And now I believe we left off with the 6th verse. Is that correct, Nadia? Or were there any questions that we didn't answer? We were talking about, I think a lot of the class was the guru, that analogy of a guru teaching his disciple a lesson by almost killing him, which we had to discuss more and unpack because it seemed inappropriate. Okay, so let's read text 6 again, and then we'll discuss it. Gopinath, or did we even get there? I don't know if we did. I thought we did partially. Gopinath tumi to shakali paro, durjane tarite, tomara shakati, ke ache papiro aro. Gopinath tumi to shakali paro, durjane tarite, tomara shakati, ke ache papiro aro. Gopinath, Gopinath. So, Gopinath, as you know, means the Lord of the Gopis. Tumi, Tomara, Tumi. Tumi, you. Krishna, that's to Krishna. You. Tumi to, certainly. You, certainly. Shakali paro, are able to do anything. Okay. Very important point. So, you find this idea, this is such an important idea. You find this idea coming up, so you have, coming up in many places, so you have two things juxtaposed. The first thing that comes up is, I'm really not qualified for pure devotional service. And if you investigate me, you'll see, not only am I not qualified, but you will find many disqualifications. At the same time, I want pure devotional service. So this is how we come to Krishna consciousness. Highly unqualified, but due to the batterings of the material world and the beauty of Krishna consciousness and the depth of its knowledge, we come with this very strong desire to have it. And so we have this conflict between the desire to have it and the disqualifications that get in the way, or what I sometimes would say, the big boulders that get in the way between us and Krishna. So how do we reconcile this? Because, we're practicing devotional service as if we can actually get to this point of loving Krishna. Otherwise, why would we do it? At the same time, it seems like it's kind of a hopeless effort in one sense. And so that's, and in fact, without mercy, which is what he's stating here, without the mercy of Guru and Krishna, it is hopeless. You can't do it on your own. So he's looking at his disqualification. The disqualification is, okay, I'm trying to do this on my own. This is never going to work. And, I'm still here. I have a physical body. I've been around a while. I can't do it on my own. So what he's saying, by saying, Krishna, you can do anything, he's saying, like, this is impossible for me, but it's not impossible for you. And recently, I was just reminded of something, which of course is a big problem, which is that we berate ourselves, or we often have a negative attitude towards ourselves. We think, we feel very guilty or shameful for things we've done wrong, feel very lowly or contaminated. And I often tell devotees, well, why don't you see yourself like Krishna sees you, or like Prabhupada sees you, rather than seeing yourself as you're seeing yourself, as rotten and useless and always putting yourself down and so forth. So this is very helpful because, as I've said many times, Krishna's not like us, so he doesn't see us the way we see ourselves, or he doesn't see us as others who don't like us or who put us down may see us. So Krishna's in a whole different league, as you know, and so he's in the league of seeing everyone with affection, and he's in the league of that anything's possible. So when Krishna looks at you, he doesn't think, I don't know about you. Did you kind of like sneak in the back door of the assembly line and became a human being, but it was an accident, and you really shouldn't be here, but to speak of be a devotee, try to be. No, he doesn't see it like that. We may think ourselves like that. What am I doing here? How can I make this, make my life successful? I have so many troubles. So these two concepts, I think, are important. Seeing things as Krishna sees them and understanding how does Krishna see it. Krishna looks at you and he thinks, there's no problem. I can make you a pure devotee. For me, it's not a big deal. You think it's a big deal for you. That's true. It is. For you, it's a big deal. For me, it's not a big deal. I can make you a pure devotee. It's like, that's easy, as long as you're willing. So that's the mood of this prayer. And you can say that's the mood of every prayer, isn't it? If you analyze, I don't say every prayer, but many, many of the prayers, if you analyze them, the devotee is stating his laundry list of disqualifications. And then making a statement, something like, but Krishna, this doesn't have to be a problem because you can overlook it, or you can just remove all these obstacles. Both things are stated, overlooking it and or removing it. So that's why if we look at things from Krishna's perspective or from the perspective of his ability, it's very encouraging. And if we look at it from our perspective, sometimes our perspective is like, this is hopeless. Am I ever going to become Krishna conscious? So then you can lose enthusiasm. And if you lose enthusiasm, the game is over. It's just a matter of time. You can't succeed at anything without enthusiasm. And if Maya sees you're not enthusiastic, then she's like, okay, let's go after him or her. they're not enthusiastic, or they have some doubt that they can actually do this, or they have some doubt that they're qualified. Okay, well, let's expand that doubt. Let's make it really big. So they just kind of completely discourage themselves and just sit on the sidelines and cry and say, I can't do this. Yesterday in the Vyas Puja, I made a very important point by saying that the guru will never leave the disciple. Only the disciple would leave the guru, because as long as the disciple is willing, the guru is willing. And if the disciple is not willing, the guru is willing, but there's nothing he can do. So in essence, even if the guru hasn't left the disciple may leave the guru by not interacting, by not following, by not trying. So I think last year I was talking a lot about this idea that you have to give Krishna something to work with. I'll say, okay, I'll help you with your business. And I'll say, do you have any money to invest? Do you have a secretary? Do you have anyone to help you? And you say, no. And I'll say, I need something to work with. I need some capital. We need some people to work with you. So it's like that with Krishna. Krishna's not looking at your qualification. He's looking, you have the sincerity and the desire to go forward, because I need to work with something. So in these prayers, the devotee is, you could say, reflecting that mood, that if I give you my sincerity, if I give you my desire, then you'll have something to work with. And you could purify anybody. It's not difficult for you. And I know, this is a prayer from Rupa Goswami, he says, I know that you're merciful, especially to those who need the mercy the most. And so, he doesn't say this, but indirectly he's saying this. He's saying, I'm not going to look at my disqualification because I know you don't look at it, right? So a lot of us look at our disqualification all the time, some more so than others. I'm so bad. I've done so many bad things. But for Krishna, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to dissuade him from helping you. Only thing that would dissuade him from helping you is you're not wanting the help. But what you've done in the past and how bad you are and all that has really nothing to do. From Krishna's perspective, it's just like he doesn't care. Krishna doesn't have a grudge against you because 20 years ago you did something stupid, or you did something stupid yesterday. All Krishna wants to see is, are you willing to go forward today with faith that he will accept you as long as you are willing to play the game and give him something to work with. And the other side of that, and then we go forward knowing that on my own I can't do it, but with faith that he can do anything, even purify someone like me, which to myself may seem like, well, that's impossible. This pot, this burnt sabji and rice in the pot of my heart is so black and so thick, and it's been burning for lifetimes. I don't see how anyone can clean it. And Krishna, he's like that magic cleaner, you pour in some liquid and and you pour it out and the pot's clean. Wow, how did that happen? That's amazing. Otherwise I would have had to take steel pad and, clean this pot for a day of Brahma. And maybe I would get it slightly clean. So we have to have that faith that Krishna, if Krishna can do anything, your heart is part of the anything that he can do something with, correct? Yeah. So this is the mood of prayer that's necessary for us to actually offer the prayer properly. It's the faith that, okay, Krishna, you could do anything. All right. Now, if you speak to Prabhupada disciples, like, when you were a young devotee, how did you do this or do that? And they'll probably say, I don't know. I don't know if I could do that again. It was, we just did it. How'd you do it? Well, we knew Krishna could do anything, so we just did it. That's how we did it, because we, if you're asked to do something you've never done before, you can't think, oh, well, I have some credentials here or some experience. Sometimes you just have to do it because it has to be done, and you're the one who's being asked to do it. So how do you do it? Well, Krishna could do anything. So let me just kind of turn myself over to the magic of anything that Krishna could do or want to do with me. And we have this in our philosophy, which comes from Bhagavad Gita. We have this idea of instrument. So one time in Los Angeles, Prabhupada said something. It was quite interesting, almost like a challenge to us, or almost like a coach saying, well, you could do this and be successful, or you could do that and be a failure. So what do you want to do? Something like that. So he said, well, you could stick around in the Hare Krishna movement and try your best and get credit for spreading Krishna consciousness, because even if you leave, it's going to spread without you. We're not dependent on you. But if you stay, you'll get the credit because Lord Chaitanya will use you. So when we heard that, it was really clear that Prabhupada was saying, if Lord Chaitanya has some sincere devotees, they'll get used, not because they're qualified, but because they're sincere. And you don't have to be, Prabhupada never said he's going to use the specially qualified, the ones with 3 PhDs from Harvard, the ones with IQs over 180, or some great souls who are going to come from India who are born Vaishnavas. He never said any of that. He just said, if you stick around and do your best, Lord Chaitanya will use you. So that was kind of the culture of ISKCON in those days. I don't want to say it's not the culture today, but I think in many ways it was more pervasive, and perhaps in some ways deeper than it is in some places in ISKCON today. And so the idea of doing the impossible, overcoming the impossible, it was just taken for granted. It wasn't like a big issue. How can I do this? Or how can I overcome this? It was just taken for granted. Yeah, you just stick around and keep doing it and you will. Krishna's way more powerful than anyone or anything. In any form of Maya will just vanish because he's light and she's darkness. Darkness can't stand in light. So it was just a given. I personally don't remember that we were at all really thinking about it or all mental about, I can't do this, or I'm so bad, I'll never amount to anything. I don't ever remember us thinking about that because that was just not the way Prabhupada presented Krishna consciousness. It was always like, jump off the cliff. Krishna's there, no problem. You don't know how to fly? No problem. You'll figure it out on the way down. Just jump off the cliff. You'll figure out how to land when you hit the ground. You'll figure out how to fly on the way down. Don't worry, Krishna will give you intelligence. Like, okay, whatever. We weren't even mental about it. That was just like normal. That's just another day in ISKCON. So, and why was it like that? Because that was what Prabhupada was telling us, and just ingraining it within us. And it's what we were seeing also, which was important because we were seeing it. It was easy to do it. We'd see devotees all over the world doing amazing things and say, okay, they're not any different than I am. And they just distributed tons of Prabhupada's books or opened temples and started this festival or whatever it was they were doing, making devotees. And it's like, okay. We all knew we came from the same stock. We were all Westerners, weren't born as devotees. So we never really thought any one of us was that far ahead of the other. So when we saw some devotee doing amazing things, we thought, okay, well, if they can do it, I should be able to do it. It's not that they're doing it, it's Krishna's doing it. He can do anything. They're just willing to be used. Okay, so let me be willing to be used. So that is a very important statement. And I just want to underscore the fact that when we pray, inherent within our consciousness or our heart is this mood that I'm praying to you, Krishna, because I can't see a way out of here, but for you, it's easy. And if you just, become my guide, if we work this thing out together, then yeah, okay. So let's say, Warren Buffett, he's a good businessman. He's made a lot of money, like billions and billions, or hundreds of billions, I don't know. And let's say Warren Buffett said, you were like your parents or grandparents were like school friends of him. And they went to him and said, my son wants to start a business. Would you help him? And he said, sure. What would you think if Warren Buffett was going to help you start a business? Would you be worried about it being successful? Of course not. Okay, your business is to go back to Godhead, and guess who is helping you? And not only is he extremely capable to help you, he actually wants you to succeed. So, how could you lose? Ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you how you can lose. By not wanting to take the help. That's all. By doubting that he can help you. That's all. Otherwise, you can't lose. If you have faith he can help you, if you want the help, if you're willing to try, then what's the problem? Shruti Kirti, his book, Shruti Kirti Prabhu, his book, I think it's called What is the Difficulty? At least that's the title or the subtitle. I think it's the title, right? Anybody know? That's the title. In any case, why did he choose that title, if it is the title, and I think it is? But let's assume it is, so I can make my next point. Why did he choose that title? Because so often, when some devotee would have difficulty or had a service that was difficult or seemed difficult, sometimes it's not, it just seems that way, but sometimes it is. There are obstacles. Prabhupada would give some solution, which often was a practical solution, but often was a spiritual solution, of a way to see the situation. And then he would say, what is the difficulty? Which is a rhetorical statement to me, meaning, hey, Prabhu, you just think it's difficult, but it isn't. And what is a difficulty also means, well, if you do what I said, then no problem. It's, there's no problem. Just do this. And what is the difficulty is also saying, why are you thinking it's difficult when here's the solution? In other words, the words of the Guru, the power of the words of the spiritual master make it possible. So you're getting guidance from the spiritual master and you're thinking it's difficult? No. If you follow those instructions, you'll be successful. So what is the difficulty? The power is in those instructions. And Prabhupada said that so many times. His success was because he followed the instructions of his Guru. The success formula was contained within the faithful following of those instructions. So what's the difficulty? The only difficulty, if there is one, is not following the instruction, because that creates the difficulty. But if you follow the instruction, there is no difficulty, right? So Prabhupada used to say that a lot, and it was just kind of like to appease us, thinking, well, we can't achieve this, or we can't be successful in this way, internally, externally. But if you do A, B, and C, this is what Krishna is advising, then what's the difficulty? And you sit there and think, yeah, there isn't any, it's just me. So for Krishna, there's no difficulty. We have faith that Krishna can do anything. Now you may say, but what if he doesn't want to do something with me? What if he wants me to just rot here? Well, he doesn't actually want you to rot here. If you and I, if we are rotting here, it's not because he wants it. Believe me, he doesn't want it. So you don't have to worry about that. Like, well, what if Krishna doesn't, he just thinks, I've done so many bad things. He wants me to rot another few lifetimes. He doesn't. He doesn't have any, it doesn't need to take revenge against you for ignoring him for 1,000,000 lifetimes. It's not like that. So what is the difficulty? Only difficulty is we don't follow. But if we follow, there's no difficulty. So for Krishna, there's no difficulty. If I follow, there will be no difficulty. Krishna will do it in his own time. May not all happen tomorrow, but it will happen. So that's the mood in which we pray. And whenever you feel hopeless, if you ever do, always remember, Krishna can do anything if you allow him to do it. He can do what you can't do if you allow him. If you have faith, that's what it means to allow him. Allow him means you have faith, and then you follow the order. And say, okay, Krishna, I'm trying, but, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Maya is everywhere. I'm trying, and if I look at my qualification, I don't really see how I'm going to win this battle, but you can win it. So I think I'll, like if we could work this out together, then I know we'll win, and I have faith in that. So I'm just going to follow your lead, and I know you will make it successful. That has to be the motto of life. And in that way, we'll never become discouraged. Because if you become discouraged, as I said, it's over. The game is over. Maya has you. She will work you over, Like if you're fighting someone, you can't just stand there with your hands down. They'll just knock you over. So when you lose your enthusiasm, it's like you've given up the fight. You're just standing there, and Maya says, oh, this is easy. I could blow this person over now with my breath. So that's how it works. So we should rename the title of this, to What is the Difficulty? What is the difficulty? The only difficulty is sitting between our shoulders. Well, or you could say, the only difficulty is sitting between our two ears, or slightly above. Slightly in between, and slightly west and north. That's the difficulty, or east, depending on which ear you choose to navigate from. What is difficulty? Oh, that thing we carry around. That's difficulty. It's amazing. I think a lot of us really don't understand the mind, but if we really understand the reality of how the mind is the difficulty and flip that idea around, that means if we have control of the mind, of what we're thinking, then we would have no difficulty, because we would just eliminate any thought that would be a difficulty, and we would plant within our mind all the thoughts we need to be successful. The mind is that powerful, and when you understand that, right, that you can plant thoughts in your mind that can create amazing enthusiasm and amazing amounts of success or tolerance, patience, whatever you need, or you can plant or allow thoughts to germinate in your mind that could basically just eat you up. The weeds could cover your creeper. When you understand that, and you understand that you have control of that, it starts to become a lot easier to control your mind and not just give in to those thoughts because you think, oh, I don't need those thoughts. Those are just thoughts. Let's just not worry about those thoughts, and let's get some thoughts that will actually help me. And we can do that. And I know that sounds so simple. And as I've said 1,000,000 times, and now it will be 1,000,001, the reason it sounds so simple is because, ta-da, it is. I know that sounds so simple is a statement meaning you're thinking that is not simple. But in fact, what often seems complicated is quite simple, actually. All right. So often I think, this is just me personally, I think, okay, there's certain things I want to achieve. Now, let me think in my mind, do I have any walls around those achievements? Like I'm thinking, that's never going to happen. That's going to take too much money. That's going to take so much time. I'll be in another body by the time that happens. Or I've never done this before, or I wouldn't know how to do it, or I don't have enough help, or whatever it is. So we put a border around our mind. And I don't have as big border walls as I had, like 50 years ago. Actually, 50 years ago, I think I had no border walls. I think they grew up. I think the walls tend to grow when you get older. But anyway, I don't have so many, but I think we all have them. It's just we like move them farther out. It's like, oh, I could do that. I could do that. I could do that. And someone says, well, what about this? And you're like, oh my God, I don't know. So, and then you think, well, this is how I think. I'm not going to go beyond those walls. Wherever I put those walls, that's what's going to stop me. And you might say, really? Is it like all I have to do is move my walls and I'll be able to do more? Well, I could say this much. If you don't move the walls, you're not going to be able to do more. I can't guarantee 100% you will do more, because if I do and you don't, you might think, well, I don't believe him anymore. He told me I could do it and I couldn't. So I'm not going to say that, although I would like to say it, because generally it's true, but there are exceptions because there may be other things blocking you. But at least we know for sure that if you put up a border wall, you're never going to do more than what, you're never going to get to the other side of that wall, because you've already planned that out, that's as far as you can go and do. So understanding that that's how simple the mind is, that it can conceive of something and work towards it. If you knock down those walls, it can do more. Oh, and you say something like, well, I could never see myself doing that. To which I would say, yeah, you're right. Because you can't see yourself doing that, you'll never do that, which will reinforce the idea that you could never see yourself doing that. So you will never do it. But you have to be able to think, well, even if I can't see myself doing it, I know Krishna could make it happen if he wanted it, right? So in that sense, you can knock the wall down by thinking, okay, maybe I can't do it, but if I were willing, Krishna could do it through me, right? It's possible. Who knows? I mean, who knows the limits of what you can do if you let Krishna work through you? You don't know until you let it happen. So that's really important, to not put limitations on Krishna, what he can do. You say, I don't put limitations on Krishna. I don't put limitations on Krishna. I just put limitations on what he can do through me. No, that's a limitation on Krishna. Of course, a huge limitation on you, which then puts limitation on Krishna. But then you remember Krishna can do anything. So then, well, if he can do anything, he can make me, I could do something amazing. I don't know how I would do it, but he could make me if I'm willing. That has to be foundational principle. We get in our minds. And so you will find in your life, you can do a lot more than you think, but you have to knock down the walls. At least move the walls. If you can't knock them down, move them a little bit, right, to something. Okay. So you can, yeah, well, let's try that. I can't, you might even say, I can't imagine doing it, but I know by Krishna's arrangement, desire, will, it could happen. So, okay, well, why not try? Doesn't hurt. Okay. So now, that was quite an introduction to one sentence in the song. So let's hear your comments or questions. What about devotees that have too big idea and an image of themselves? I can do anything. I'm the best devotee. Sure, this doesn't make any problem with Krishna, but it sure creates problems with everyday devotional service. No, it creates problems for Krishna also. Because if a devotee thinks I can do it, that's false ego. He has to think, by Krishna's mercy, it can be done, not because I can do it, but because Krishna's mercy, because of Krishna's mercy. So that's the wrong way of thinking. It's not that I'm trying to say we shouldn't have any self-confidence, but the self-confidence a devotee has is the capital S confidence. And if I have confidence in that self, then that's the proper consciousness. You may have some ability and some experience in a certain area, so if someone asks you to do something, you could say, yeah, I can do that. You have confidence. But I would say in that situation, you will expand your idea of what you can do to the point where it's like, oh, I don't know if I could go that far. Well, now it's time for Krishna to come in. That will keep you humble, right? Anyway, false ego always wants to take credit. It's like false ego is like a little kid that is nagging. Give me credit, give me credit, give me recognition, My father used to do that with me. He'd always give me recognition. He'd say, I need your help to build something. He didn't need my help. He'd say, can you hand me a nail? I give him a nail. Can you give me the hammer? Can you give me a screw? Can you give me the screwdriver? And then he'd build something. And he said, look what we built. I think, I didn't build that. But I mean, I accepted it. I accepted his, keep bringing me in on the, building that we did it. But in a sense, we did do it because I helped. Or maybe he needed someone to hand him the nails that were sitting like right in front of him that he could have picked up. So it's like that. If you're willing to help, Krishna will let you. And you just think Krishna's doing it, and I'm just handing him the nails. That's it. Otherwise, it's false ego. False ego wants to say, look at me. Everybody, all of you out there, look at me. Look what I did. Check it out. Is that good? I did it. I'm the man. That's false ego. That's what the false ego says. So there's no real place in ISKCON for that. Of course, you might say, there may be no place for it, but there are devotees who think that way. Yeah, we're conditioned souls trying to become purified. But ideally speaking, ISKCON is not a place for that. The material world is the place for that. Go join the Olympics, you can win a gold medal, and stand up and get applauded. That's what you do in the material world. You can start the biggest company, get on the Forbes 500 or 100. You can be the top 10 richest men in the world. That's what the material world's all about. But the spiritual world's not about that. So we can't bring that into into ISKCON. It doesn't work here. It contaminates the environment. We don't want it. Of course, we bring it in because we're conditioned souls. But if we've brought it in, we have to understand it's not really the place for it, and we have to work on it. So Nadia says, that's exactly what I was thinking about today when I was praying. I felt like I was talking to a wall. Felt so discouraged because I'm praying and praying and praying. Nothing is going on, like nobody listens. So it is a test. Enough faith that Krishna can really help me. Yeah, I think it's exactly what it is. Because let's say you're praying and like you're not praying for some miracle like COVID go away tomorrow. Something that would physically be impossible. But you're praying to become more purified. And it's not happening. So then one place to look, like you're saying, is, well, maybe I don't have faith that Krishna can purify me. And because I don't have that faith, then he's saying, as I've said before, Krishna says, okay, so you don't have faith. Okay, well, I just want to give you faith in your lack of faith by not fulfilling your desire, because you don't really believe that it can happen. And if I make it happen, that would go against what you believe. And I don't want to like rain on your parade or spoil your party. So I'll just let you go on believing that you can't be purified. And so, I'll just go to another devotee and purify them because you don't really believe it. So why should I like interfere with you? Something like that. Of course, not always. Krishna could interfere if he wants, but usually if he does interfere, it's because one really ultimately wants that interference and has has some faith. So I would say increase your faith in Krishna's ability to do anything. Right? That's point one. Point two, which is more subtle, is he may be doing it and you don't see it, and therefore you lack faith. Like, Krishna, I want to be a pure devotee. And Krishna says, when? And you say, yesterday. And Krishna says, but that's not fair, because there's things you have to do to become a pure devotee. But Krishna, you can do anything. So can you just make it happen yesterday? And Krishna says, well, I don't work that way. You got to pay the price. That's the way you'll really benefit from it, and you'll advance. So sometimes he is purifying us. It's just we have a calculation of what purification looks like, and it doesn't look like what's happening, even though it is happening. So then we think it's not happening. It's like with expectations. You have all these expectations that could be unrealistic. And then you're getting upset with somebody because they're not fulfilling your expectations, although they're doing all kinds of other things for you, but your expectations are above what they're doing. That's what ruins it. So you may be expecting Krishna to purify you at a rate that is not within his scale. Now, he could purify you faster, but he chooses how. So it could be those two things, or both. So yes, you're onto something, Nadia. Pada Ananda says, first deserve and then desire. This is famous words of Srila Prabhupada. But he used it in the context of entering into Krishna's intimate pastimes with the gopis. We need to understand that. It means that the mercy is always from Guru, and Krishna, we must take this by service, and after this, praying for mercy. In praying for mercy, there really is no qualification. But as you say, it's like the example I give. I say, Parananda, can you help me lift this table? I need to move it. And you say, okay. So you get on one side of the table, and I just sit there. And you say, so are you going to pick up the other side of the table? And I say, no, you said you were going to help me. And you say, well, I can't lift the table alone. I need you to lift the other side. And then I say, no, I'm not going to lift the other side. So praying without making an effort is a little bit like that. It's like I joke, say, Krishna, can you get me out of bed? Because I don't feel like getting out of bed. And Krishna's saying, I will help you, but you have to make some effort. So it's like that. So it is a fact that you should accompany your desire with actions which would demonstrate that this is what you desire. Still, sometimes those actions may not be sufficient, or we don't have that enthusiasm to do everything, but at least something. Show Krishna that I'm not completely lazy and unenthusiastic. I just want you to do everything. I don't want to do anything, so it can't be that way. So when Prabhupada said first deserve, then desire, it was particularly in the context of hearing the pastimes, exclusively hearing the pastimes of Krishna and the gopis. That's all they were hearing. He said, yeah, that could be a stage, a very elevated stage at a later time in your life. So you're not qualified to do it. But you could say, in a sense, we're always qualified to ask Krishna. But as we said to Nadia, the asking should be with faith, and as you're saying, the asking should also be with action to show Krishna, not just in words, but in action, that this is what you want. I mean, in real life, quote unquote real life, in this world, if you're asking someone for something and some help, and you show them that you want help, isn't that better than just asking and doing nothing? I think so. Katie is back with us. Today's a holiday in America. Is it a holiday in London today? Today's Memorial Day. This is the day that we are United States set aside a day for remembering the soldiers, and I sensed that people who were never in the military or didn't have family in the military just use this day to get drunk, basically, and don't, or have fun in some way. Don't really think about the significance of it. But of course, we could say every day is Memorial Day. We should remember Guru and Krishna. So, Krishna Karshani says, what about endeavor from our side to deal with our stuff? I notice devotees tend to expect Krishna to fix them in their lives with little effort. Same question as your husband. I'm talking about self-work and dealing with their issues from their side. Well, it's interesting you bring this up, because what Krishna Karshani is saying is, I pray, Krishna, I can't do this, I need your help. Which is it's, I think we have to understand it. It's that it's not that I don't try because I can't do it. It's just that it's the job description or the result that I meant to achieve. I can't do that. But it doesn't mean I don't try. So Draupadi she was trying to defend herself, fend off these big kshatriyas. She couldn't. So what do you do in that situation? You just put your hands up and say Govinda, because you can't do anything. So sometimes it is a fact that sometimes in life there is nothing you can do. All you can do is put your hands up and say, hey Govinda, help me, or hey Nrsingadev, I can't do anything. I'm in this particular situation, I'm hopeless. That's a little different than what I was telling your husband, because what I was telling your husband is that a situation where you can't achieve the goal because you need Krishna's help, but you make some effort. And of course, someone could say, but she was making an effort. She was calling out for Govinda. At least she did that, and then he came. So that is some kind of effort. So there is a fact, there is a stage that we may be in where we've tried everything. We are trying, and we're saying, Krishna, it's not working. So it doesn't mean we stop trying. But part of the work now is to pray to Krishna and say, Krishna, I need your help. I can't do this. And put your trust and faith in Krishna. That then becomes the work, because everything else you tried didn't work. Specifically, I can think of one example for this. Aside from Draupadi, which is obvious, she couldn't defend herself. Another common example is addiction, because addiction puts one in a situation where they can't control their addiction. So I'm trying, but I can't, and I've tried and tried and tried, and I can't. So I put my hands up to Krishna and say, I can't do this without you can do this, but I can't. But still they've tried, still we try. But at some point it's like, what else can I do? And so at that point, my effort is the prayer. That's the only effort. But wherever effort can be made, it has to be made. Then you have the other side of this equation, which I don't know if you were thinking of the other side, but the other side of this equation is, I think I can do it all myself. I don't need God. So then you're bordering on, or maybe you're not bordering on, then that's really bordering on atheism, or you're already across the border, or you're going in that direction. And you may even believe in God, but you just don't understand theology well enough to know that it's not that you're just going to do it all on your own. So there's a balance of both sides. Krishna is going to do everything, but God helps those who help themselves. And as opposed to, I'm going to do it all myself. I don't need God. It's just I take full responsibility. If I apply myself intelligently, I will be successful. Why do you need God? That's what Krishna told his father during Govardhan Puja. It's called karma mimamsa philosophy. Everything depends on your effort. So that's the opposite side. Everything depends on your effort. Everything depends on Krishna. There's a balance in there. Sometimes it depends more on your effort. Krishna wants to see your effort. Sometimes there is no more effort you can perform. It's just totally Krishna. So you have to, it's like Gajendra is another example. Like he's fighting. And at a certain point, he realized that I can't win this fight. And that's at that point. After making all that effort, he put his hands up and said, Chintamani pakarashadma sukalpa vriksha. I think he chanted Brahma Samhita or Sanhita or something. Sanhita. Brahma Sanhita. Also known in America as the Brahma Samhita. Brahma Sanhita. Something like that. If I'm pronouncing my Sanskrit well. So, that's a really good example, right? He's fighting. And he realizes, I can't do this on my own. So he gives up fighting and he just calls for Krishna's help. And Krishna comes and helps. So, there's a continuum. Sometimes it's going to require more of our effort. Come on, Krishna Karshani, get up early, chant your rounds, focus, be attentive, read Prabhupada's books, push. I got to make this effort. But then sometimes it's like, Prabhupada, help me get up early. Help me, find the time every day to read your books. So, it works both ways. You remember this statement that Prabhupada made, which I mentioned this, who knows how long ago, months and months ago. And Prabhupada said, I am happy when I see you struggling. And you're thinking, wow, that almost sounds sadistic. What does he mean? Because he knows when you're struggling to be Krishna conscious, you'll get Krishna's mercy. And you'll stay out of Maya. So I'm happy, when you're struggling and you're thinking, oh, this is so hard, it's so difficult, I'm so bad, I'm so fallen, how am I ever going to become Krishna conscious? You can think, oh, lights go off. Oh, Prabhupada must be happy that I'm going through this dark night of the soul and I'm really trying to figure everything out and move forward, but it's so difficult. And at least you're trying. So Prabhupada's happy because you're moving forward, even if you don't realize it. So we have a question. I'm not sure. Who is the enemy of lust, greediness, and anger? Krishna is the enemy of lust, greediness, and anger. Love of Krishna is the enemy of lust, greediness, and anger. And you can also be the enemy of it by not giving into it. If we give in to lust and anger, etc., then we become the friend of it. Krishna uses the word varinam in Bhagavad Gita to describe lust, anger, and greed. To describe lust specifically, but we can use this word, varinam. It means enemy. I think it's pronounced varinam. It means enemy. Krishna said lust is your enemy. So if lust is your enemy and you don't give into it, then you become the enemy of lust. Instead of it becoming your enemy, it is now lust. You are now the enemy of lust. So who is the enemy of lust? Cupid, transcendental Cupid, Madan Mohan. So when you become attracted to Madan Mohan, then you will conquer your own lust. That's the title. What is the difficulty of that's confirmation of, and we can title this class, what is difficult? Indra Nuja. Oh, Bhubaneswar Prabhu left his body 2 hours ago. I was just reading that he was leaving his body. I didn't realize that. You'll tell the best stories. Please tell some of your association after you talk. So, Bhubaneswar is a godbrother. Some of you know him. He's the cook in Vrindavan. And I was in Los Angeles in 1972, and I think he had just become a devotee at that point. And he was, I don't know how to describe him, because there's nobody really like him. He was, I guess, if you didn't know him, you'd think he's kind of grumpy, but in his grumpiness, he was always funny. Isn't it? You know him, Indranuja? Wasn't he kind of like grumpy, funny? Like in his grumpiness, it was all jokes. He would, whenever I come to Vrindavan, he would always joke with me, like what would he say? He'd say, "Oh, the great Mahatma is here. He's, famous all over the world." Something like that, But he came to Vrindavan, I don't know, how long's he been in Vrindavan? Like forever. He just came to Vrindavan and like never left and just stayed there and ended up being the cook, staying brahmachari. So he's probably my age, maybe a little older, a little younger, I don't know. And I think also must have been a book distributor also in those days. And the transcendental grumpy jokester, that's how I would call him. Maybe someone else knows him. Who wants to say something? That's how I remember him. This has been a bad year for Prabhupada disciples leaving. And, this is, at least in America, I think the lifespan of men, the average lifespan of men, I don't know for sure. Can somebody look up the lifespan of men, specifically in the United States? It seems like as devotees, a lot of the devotees are leaving earlier. And one thought I have on this, just a thought, is that if you live to be very old and your body is breaking down, it's kind of painful and pointless. And Krishna may be taking the devotees away, of course, if you're young, 70 seems old, but at 70, you're okay. You can still do things. You can walk, you can ride a bike, some 7-year-olds can run, play tennis, But if your body's falling apart, and it's in a lot of pain, then dying younger is actually a blessing. So sometimes I think, well, Krishna was letting them die so they wouldn't have to experience a lot of pain, the pain of old age. That's one thought. Another thought is that, two other thoughts I have, that Krishna is missing them and wants them. And another thought is Prabhupada needs them somewhere else too. Prabhupada needs some hippies at 26 2nd Avenue in New York and another universe. So they're going to show up there and, he's calling them into the Leela. So we don't know. We don't know. And for us as devotees, the greatest lamentation when somebody dies is not that, oh, he's dead and he can't enjoy anymore. Well, that would be how we would normally lament. Or one of the lamentable things about dying is, oh, this person, now they're dead and they're no longer here, and life is meant for enjoyment. They don't have it. But the obvious thing is we all lose their association. So the real pain is on the part of the devotees. And knowing Bhubaneswar, I'm sure he was like, no problem, He was probably just telling jokes, to the last minute, if I know him. And of course he wasn't married. He didn't have any kids. I'm sure his parents have all left. So he was probably just like, whatever, I'll cook I'll cook with Radharani and Braj, and what's the problem? I have another godbrother who has got fourth stage cancer, and I saw him on the Shringadev's appearance day. So, I asked him, like, what's going on, and he told me, and I said, are you ready to leave? And he says, I'm ready. I'm ready. And it was like totally detached. So, when we lament when a devotee dies, but at the same time, through their life of bhakti, they've been made ready. So for them, it's not a traumatic experience or even a regrettable experience. And then the other thing is it gives us time to talk about the devotee and their pastimes and benefit in ways we don't always benefit because we don't, like, how many of you know him and know what he did and all these things that unfortunately, I don't know so much about him details-wise. And I just knew him as, when we were young devotees in Los Angeles. But if there's some memorial service, then you get to hear about him and you learn all kinds of things you didn't know and you become purified. So it's kind of like a way of glorifying the devotee. When they leave their body, you get to hear their glories. So that's there also. So I'm sorry, it's just a general discussion and not specifics, but I just remember him like an old Jewish guy just complaining, but it was all funny. Like it wasn't actually like he was complaining, even though he was complaining, because it was funny. So it was like, sometimes you tell jokes because things are bad and you make light of it by joking. So he was kind of like that from what I remember. He was like 24/7 he was like that, like nonstop, just like joking and sarcastic. Like there's a joke about an old Jewish man and he was like really thirsty and he drank some water and he was complaining how thirsty he was and then he drank the water. And then he was complaining how thirsty he was. He said, I'm so thirsty. Here, sir, take some water. And he drinks the water. He goes, oh, I was so thirsty. I was so, like they're always, the idea, old Jewish man's always complaining. So he was kind of like that, but in a transcendental way. So it wasn't really like he was complaining. It was more like he was explaining the philosophy through jokingly complaining. That's my remembrance of him. Indranuja, if you remember anything, you can say something. Okay, Saradiya Rasa says, when it comes to preaching projects, how do we balance the preference of some devotees to plan and strategies and the preference of other devotees to simply preach? We see how things unfold while relying on Krishna? No. It seems that a sattvic approach to preaching would include reflection, analysis, and plan. Yeah, if you have enough people, then you want to look at the strengths of each person. There's a free resource online, which I can't remember, but I took it, created by somebody for free. And you answer, it takes like a half hour, 45 minutes, and you answer questions. And it tells you what kind of position, well, the one for corporate hasn't come out. It will tell you what position on the team you should have by just answering the questions. So you could ask Radha Priya about it because her husband knows about it. And that's interesting because everyone has, they have certain talents. So it can be a disaster. Yeah, the point is if you pray to Krishna, you can do much better. But your much better may not be quite as good as somebody's not so good because they have that nature or that training. So naturally, from a practical perspective, you want to do what's best according to the abilities of people. But sometimes you don't have those people. You just have to do the Draupadi dance and go, okay, Krishna, you want me to do accounting? I get dizzy when I look at numbers. But if that's what you want, I'll do it. And 3 weeks later, everyone says, where's all the money? I don't know. I thought we had money. At that point, maybe your prayers weren't powerful enough to overcome your math deficiencies. But still, if that's what Krishna wants you to do, keep praying, keep working. There's a lot of devotees who they couldn't sing. And now they're really good singers. They just went out and did it. Or they couldn't distribute books like Indranuja. He's like, when he first started book distribution, it was like really hard for him. Not really an extroverted type person. But now he's like, he can distribute books in his sleep. No problem. So, former black slaves started Memorial Day. Oh, really? To honor dead soldiers with a masquerade. Black slaves started it. Oh my God, I had no idea. Oh my God, that is incredible. I had no idea. Hare Krishna. His world is so bad. It's just like crazy bad. Slavery, yeah. It's like, sometimes Prabhupada talks about slavery, but he's actually talking about Shudras who were taken care of by their masters and provided and loved by their masters, but they just weren't capable of really living a productive and moral life if they had too much independence. So that's kind of not a PC statement, but it's more PC than slavery. And so when Prabhupada used the word slavery, sometimes he was referring to the Shudras who were working for the Vaishyas, who were like taken care of by them, whatever they needed, but not given enough independence to mess their lives up, to become, addicted to alcohol or drugs or misuse their life in some way. That was the concept. I know you'd have to unpack that a little more and see it in action, because it doesn't sound right to us. But just so you know, if Prabhupada ever used the word slavery, that's what he was referring to, not the slavery that we have experience of. Nadia says, I want more question. It's said that a devotee is always satisfied with whatever he has, whatever level he is at. But at the same time, we should always pray and strive for becoming better and achieving more on the path of devotional service and shoot for the stars. How can I reconcile these two things? Well, I think it's reconciled in the prayer of Prahlad Maharaj. He said, I'm satisfied hearing and chanting, but I'm not satisfied that there are people who are not hearing and chanting. So definitely you can be satisfied in your own bhakti and unsatisfied that people are not going further. Now let's use the example of satisfied in yourself at the same time striving. Well, you have a good meal. You ever do something, Nadia, and it was like really good and you're really satisfied? Like maybe some of the devotees who organized yesterday's Vyas Puja are thinking, well, that was really nice. Everybody really had a good time and it was very inspiring. And they're already thinking how they can do it better next year. So that would be an example of how you're satisfied, but you want to do it better. So you're satisfied. I'm chanting 16 rounds. I'm doing, the best I can, but I want to be better. You have to balance those two in a healthy way, so that the present satisfaction is not going to make you lethargic, so you don't want to improve. And so that seeing the need to improve doesn't make you discontent with your present situation. I mean, like, in one sense, how could any devotee be discontent because you have the holy name? So just because you have the holy name, that's like the greatest thing you could ever have. So you should be fully satisfied. Even if you're not chanting well, but still you should be satisfied that you have it, you have the process. So in that sense, I'm satisfied that I have Krishna consciousness. Maybe I don't do it well as well as I would like, but I'm satisfied that I have it. I'm so happy, I'm so grateful that I have it. But I want to be a better devotee. I want to serve Prabhupada better. I want to love Krishna and I don't. So I'm hankering for that. So you have to balance both in a way that you don't become discouraged. And I think this brings up a really important point, and I only need another hour to explain it. It brings up the point that what we have to learn to do is adjust things which are opposites, which seems like if you have one, how could you have the other? If you're content, it's like the nature of your question is you're content, why would you be hankering? And if you're hankering to be better, how could you be content? So what we have to do is make an adjustment of both so we can be both, because that's the healthiest position. Because if you're not content, you may give up trying to be better. Or you'll always be frustrated in trying to be better. because you'll never be as good as you want to be. So I would throw the question back at you and back at everyone and just ask you, figure out how you can be content at the same time always desirous of advancing. And then if you think about it long enough, you'll come up with things that I said, and you'll come up with other things. Well, I should be content for, why should you be content, Nadia? Write down all the reasons. And why should you be striving to be better? Write down all the reasons. And don't think they're mutually exclusive. That's the point. Because you're thinking they're mutually exclusive. If you're content, you won't be aspiring for better. If you're aspiring for better, you'll always be unsatisfied. So my question to you is, figure out how to be both at the same time. Because that's the healthy position. And you will eternally be unsatisfied. You will eternally be striving to be better. Right? Krishna wants to love Radha more. Radha wants to love Krishna more. You think they're unsatisfied? They're crying, I don't have enough love for Radha. What will I do? No. They're merged in love, but it's always increasing. So it's kind of the spiritual nature. You can be satisfied and it can increase. Whereas, if you look at it materially, well, if it's satisfied, you generally don't really push yourself. It's the dissatisfaction that pushes you. But that's material. So we're dealing with something which is bigger than the material. Okay, we have 8 minutes. Internuja, you're in Vrindavan? Wow, look at that. We've got the results are in. It's a little higher than I thought. 78.5 years is the lifespan of males. And of course I don't have the figures of devotees in ISKCON, but I have a lot of godbrothers who've already left their bodies late 60s, early 70s, so below average. Of course, if we have more devotees living to be 80s and 90s, it'll balance it out. So now Bhuvaneshwar is maybe helping Radharani cook. Is that it? If you saw his eyes, you definitely noticed something special. Yeah, I mean, like live in Vrindavan for all those years, stay brahmachari, stay in ISKCON. So many devotees left ISKCON during the years there were so many tumultuous things happening. I mean, Prabhupada godbrothers. And just do your service. It's special. Marco says, regarding balancing personal effort and descending mercy, I read this post by Gargamuni Prabhu, or Gargamuni, or guard your money. Yeah, that's another thing. Prabhupada said, guard your money, because he'll take it from you. One Indian man repeatedly requests for Srila Prabhupada's blessings. What his response was, Prabhupada, Krishna's blessings are everywhere, but nobody is prepared to take it. Krishna says, just take shelter of me and I will protect you from the reactions of all sinful life. Because here in the material world, everyone is sinful and there is reaction. He gives assurance that I will give you protection from the reactions of sinful life. Just surrender, but nobody is doing that. Indian man, your kindly blessings that I surrender. Surrender means that Krishna, so long I was forgotten, that missing you now I have forgotten. From this day, surrender to you, whatever you like, you can do. Ha ha. Whatever you like, you can do with me. Indian man, Shamarji, I will request you to kindly give me that feeling of dedication and surrender. Bless me. Prabhupada, does not require. You simply let him come. Anyone wants to come, let him come. And the Prabhupada saying, do it yourself. Just like one man has fallen in the well, he's crying, please get me out. Somebody please throw a rope. Just catch it, take it. Then where is the question now of getting a blessing? Here is the blessing, take it. But if you don't, catch it. So Prabhupada saying, blessing's already there. Give me the strength to catch. That is not a very good argument. Wow. Did you hear that, everyone? Someone throws you the rope and just, oh, could you give me the strength to hold on the rope? Oh, give me a break. I just saved your life and you're asking me to give you the strength? This is not a very good argument. Here is the rope. You catch it. That's all. But nobody's prepared to do that. Otherwise, the solution is there. These European and American boys, they're taking it up and they're advancing. But if you are not prepared to take it, how you will advance? It is a plea that you give me your grace so that I can catch this goal of devotion. Is that right? I'm already offering you the rope. You catch it. That is it's like, give me your blessings, give me your grace so I can do this. It's like, I already threw you the rope. Just catch it. That is the difficulty. These people, they have taken it, that they have surrendered. They're making progress. Yeah, so that's nice. Hare Krishna. So, Ravanal, welcome. I remember Bhubaneswar Prabhu, just like that. Grumpy, humorous. Yeah, well, okay, we got it right. Bhubaneswar, with full conviction, told me he was not doing the cooking. He was assistant to Radharani, very advanced devotee. I did not have a lot of association. It was spread over many years. Sometimes we visited, would ask if we had any extra Franklins. Low. Hundreds, of course. Franklins, what's a Franklin? I'm out of the loop here. I'm trying to finish on time. May the ISKCON diet and lifestyle have something to do with devotees' shorter lifespans. Oh, yeah, that might also. I did eat a bit too much halava in my day. I did I'm still trying to catch up for all the sleep I missed as a brahmachari, It's going to take me the rest of my life to catch up. So yeah, that did have something to do with it. The puddles of ghee and the sabji and sour cream, that might have had something to do. Some devotees believe that maybe the lack of sleep, the rich diet, and the stress may have had something to do with it. Or maybe it's Krishna's desire, or both. Thank you for interesting lecture. You're welcome. Oh, Franklin's dollars. Oh, Franklin, $100. Oh, he needed some money. Okay, I got it. A little slow there today. Okay, we finished class in time and we read one line from the song, or actually a few words from the song. But I think it was important. And I would say in relation to what Marco posted from Prabhupada, again, it's a balance, because Prabhupada's saying, here's the rope, just catch it. You don't need any more blessings now. The rope is there. But sometimes there is no rope, and you don't know how to get the rope, and you don't know where it's coming from. So then you're praying. But then when the rope is thrown and you're still praying, there's like something's wrong. Right? Like, hey, give me blessings. Well, here's all my books. What more blessings do you want? It helped me surrender to Krishna. No, just do it. All the blessings are there in the surrender, But give me the strength. Well, here's the Maha Mantra, So it's like, you can't reduce it to the point where you don't do anything. That's the idea. So thank you all for coming. And we will leave you now and go into the japa room if you want to attend. It's on Zoom. There's an ad on Facebook or somewhere, and you can all come. We can have a big japa class. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. Nice to see you, at least to see your names. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.